Welcome back to The Perspective. Professor, the go-to person you mentioned earlier, which is also something that you've mentioned during the conference for Indonesia foreign policy, the absence of a go-to person in vis-a-vis to foreign policy.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the president really relies very much on the foreign ministry, the foreign minister and the foreign ministry institution to advise him and to provide him with talking points and to advise him on which meeting he should attend and which meeting could be represented by other officials. But unlike in the previous SBY administration, President Joko Widodo doesn't have a special assistant staff khusus on foreign policy, or who could act as a spokesperson on foreign policy. President SBY, as you know, had two spokespersons, one on domestic politics and one on foreign policy. President Joko Widodo only has one spokesperson, Johan Budi. And in his immediate staff, like in the staff of the office of the president, there is no one who is particularly focused on managing foreign relations. Nor is in the advisory council on the One Team Press. There is no individual there who is known to be a foreign policy aficionado, like Dr. Harsan Wirayuda in the previous One Team Press, or Pak Ali Alatas in the first SBY cabinet, for example. So yeah, there are no individual could be identified within the inner circle.
Was this intended?
Well, I think the explanation is that he relies more on the official institution, the foreign ministry.
The foreign ministry.
Yeah, the foreign ministry. Maybe that reflects his own immediate interest. Yeah, you don't go to the president office to ask about key foreign policy priorities, but he appoints a go-to person for key countries of which Indonesia has a lot of economic relations with. So at the ministerial level, in fact, these ministers are supposed to facilitate, if there are investors coming and if they need assistance and so on. For example, Ibu Susi, our fishery and maritime minister, is tasked with coordinating relations with Russia. So if some Russian companies and officials want to invest in Indonesia and so on, not at the diplomatic level. The diplomatic level remains the purview of the foreign ministry. But if there are assistance that's needed to deal with the investment board, to deal with other line ministries, she has actually appointed a coordinator, an official to coordinate that.
Which is at the Susi. In regards to that.
So that will be in other ministries as well. Of course, the problem is now there have been a cabinet reshuffle. So I don't know whether the new ministers will assume that kind of responsibility. I assume so, because it's not a personal appointment; it's an ex officio appointment.
In your professional view, is that an effective way of delegating foreign policy issues with different point persons and ministerial levels?
Well, it could create challenges if there is poor coordination. So the challenge now is for the foreign ministry, because after all, the foreign minister is appointed under this new ad hoc system to be the super foreign minister to coordinate all the other line ministries. So there must be some capacity within the foreign ministry to get all of the necessary information, to analyze the data and to circulate it again. So I think in response to this, the foreign ministry itself has appointed a new task force in charge of economy issues. So we hope that there could be effective coordination between the foreign ministry and with the others. Because after all, when the minister goes to a foreign country, he deals with the local ambassador, and ambassadors, regardless of what their backgrounds are, they report back to the foreign ministry. So they're not. So all the line ministries who are supposed to be helping with economic diplomacy must report at the end of the day, to the foreign minister. Also, not just to the president, but they must also coordinate with the foreign minister.
All right. When we come back, we'll touch a little bit on Jokowi's stance on South China Sea and also the U.S. presidential election.